Hello, community. On this channel, we will talk about history relating to how it is represented in today's world. Since this is the first video, let us talk about the King of Kings, or the guy who is also dubbed as the King of Heroes by certain game, Gilgamesh. Oh, and also, don't forget to subscribe the channel if you like the video. Let's get started. In the city of Uruk, there lived a king called Gilgamesh, who was sort of demigod. Since in historical epic, the Epic of Gilgamesh, it has been told that his father's name was Lugalbanda and his mother was cow goddess Ninsun. This guy was a ruthless ruler who oppressed his subjects and also opposed the gods. So the gods sent Enkidu, a guy made of clay, to kill the king, but instead they have a fight and both become good friends. In fact, best friends. I mean, who would want to be a friend of an oppressor, right? So these two became friends, used to adventure together, until one day Ishtar decides to mess with Gilgamesh. Well, because she was horny. Gilgamesh did not have the time for those things. He was too involved with having fun with Enkidu. The goddess gets angry and sends the bull of heaven to kill Gilgamesh. Enkidu and Gilgamesh fight and defeated, but after this, the gods give Enkidu a disease and he dies. So the heartbroken king sets out on a journey to find immortality and fails in his quest. He realized that immortality can't be achieved since he is only a human, and then he returns to Uruk to rule as a benevolent king. What a change of heart, isn't it? Well, this was somewhat of a summary of the story presented to you by the game Fate Grand Order. But the real story isn't far from it. Let's get to that. If we look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's a story in 5 parts, and each of them gives an account of different parts of the life of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was the king of Sumerian city of Uruk, who would have existed around 2700 BC if he were a guy that actually existed in history. I'm saying this because there have been no actual historical evidence that he existed. There's this story and then some stone statues that can't be taken as evidence. Well, the story was written sometime before 2700 BC. Another Sumerian king, Shalgi, managed to keep the stories going by reviving old literature in 21st century BC. The history was found in 5 parts that were later compiled by Sin Leki Uninni. Gilgamesh and Akka tells the story of Gilgamesh's triumph over Akka, the overlord of the city of Kish. Gilgamesh and Huawa recounts the journey of the king and his friend Enkidu to Chetar Mountains, where they slay Humbaba, the guardian giant that protects the forest. The third tale, Gilgamesh and the Bull of Heaven, deals with Gilgamesh's rejection to the amorous advances of the goddess Inanna. Yeah, this is the story where goddess Ishtar was horny. She couldn't handle rejection well and sent the Bull of Heaven to take down Gilgamesh. But he and his companion Enkidu kills the thing. In Gilgamesh and the Netherworld, the hero loses 2 sport-related objects and they fall in the Netherworld. So Enkidu descends into the Netherworld to retrieve them. Upon his return to life, he describes the cruel fate one has to go through when he descends into the world of the dead. And finally, the last part, the death of Gilgamesh. The hero dreams that gods are meeting to review his exploits and accomplishments. They decide that Gilgamesh, like anyone, should die. In addition to these, young scribes studying in the old Babylonian schools made copy of different tales related to Gilgamesh. One noteworthy of tale was sung in Akkadian rather than Sumerian, called Surpassing All Other Kings. This poem combined some of the Sumerian narratives into the new Akkadian tale. What happened during the 18th century BC was that people abandoned southern Mesopotamia and new Babylonian dynasties came into light. A shift in political powers and culture took place, and the settlements were concentrated in north of Sumer. Around the 2nd millennium BC, the literary work in Babylonian dominated scribal learning, and so the tale of Gilgamesh proliferated and transformed into accordance to local concerns. Sin Leki Uninni, a Babylonian scholar, compiled the stories which would later become the famous tale of Gilgamesh. The Surpassing All Other Kings became He Who Saw the Deep, where Uninni recast Enkidu as the companion of Gilgamesh. In old Sumerian tales, Enkidu was somewhat of an animal which had sex with a temple prostitute and then transformed into a human being of unfathomed wisdom. I know sex feels good, but never knew it's that good. He then had confrontations with Gilgamesh and they became best friends. Later, they go to the forest of Cedar where they defeat the guardian giant Humbaba. As they go back to Uruk, goddess Ishtar, who had an eye for Gilgamesh, couldn't hold back her sexual urges, but Gilgamesh rejects her. He's now become Gilgachad. Enraged, the goddess sends the bull of heaven to kill Gilgamesh, but instead the bull is killed by Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Poor bull. What had he done to die like this? The gods retaliate to this by causing Enkidu an incurable illness and he dies. Gilgamesh, devastated by Enkidu's death, sets on a fruitless journey to seek immortality. On his search, he confronts a scorpion man and a divine female tavern keeper who tries to dissuade him from his search. But as shown in the game, Gilgamesh is stubborn. He later finds out about Uthanapistim, a legendary hero who attained immortality and is living on an island across the waters of death. Gilgamesh successfully completes the voyage and is greeted by Uthanapistim on reaching the island. The guy tells him that immortality is something that can't be attained and he himself has been stationed by the gods so that at the time of great flood, he can make a box-like ark and then along with his family, he was to save a couple of all the species on earth. Pretty sure this is where the story of Noah comes from. Gilgamesh, upon learning this, returns to his country and becomes a benevolent ruler. The first modern adaptation of the Epic of Gilgamesh was Ishtar and Isbudar by Seth C. Hamilton, an American lawyer and businessman who had rudimentary knowledge of Akkadian. Hamilton omits the famous flood story and focuses on Ishtar and Gilgamesh's romantic relationship. Like I did in this video. I mean, most of the people already know the story of Noah and his ark. However, in the game Fate Grand Order, Gilgamesh appears as a prideful guy with golden yellow hair. He is addressed as the king of heroes and is a pretty OP character. The game also follows the same story as the Epic of Gilgamesh. However, if you want to know more, I will not spoil how the game perceives him. I'll end this here with a question. Did Gilgamesh actually exist? Because many a thousand statues are out there and some of the people that they depict actually existed.